Be sure you stop the miner before the miner stops your heart. Here's your look at the Kickstarter My Bloody Valentine, the board game. Yes, this is actually the second Kickstarter board game that I backed. The first earlier one that we looked at here on this channel, in fact, with the Silent Night, Deadly Night board game, which did have some rather mixed opinions about it. I myself maybe had been warmed by the idea of getting a Silent Night, Deadly Night board game, but now since having played it several times, I will say that the board game is somewhat underwhelming. I hate to say this already about the My Bloody Valentine board game, is that if you've already played the Silent Night, Deadly Night one, or even seen my review of the other earlier one, that this board game is an exact carbon copy. Now, granted, it is made from the same creators as the Silent Night, Deadly Night board game, but I would have hoped that they could have not just simply rinsed and repeated, just swapped out one character for another, and not literally just produced the exact same board game. That being said, we are going to open up the box. I'll show you the contents, and I'll show you guys how to play the game as well. And if you had seen my earlier review of the Silent Night, Deadly Night board game, you will recognize right away a lot of similarities between the two. Before we get things underway, though, I did want to show you guys the box. The box itself, I don't know if you guys can actually tell or not just based on my hand alone, it's a pretty small box. And while you may think to yourself, hey, that's only going to mean that you're going to open up the board. Well, not by much, though. The board's going to be pretty small inside. One thing I do really like about it, you can see it's officially licensed. It says just like the movie, and on the front is the miner, Harry Warden, holding a heart in hand with pickaxe on the other. The artwork is fantastic. If just to get the board game for the box alone, I don't know I would say it would be worth it, but it's always nice to kind of get memorabilia of horror movies, especially one of my all-time favorites. Down below, we've got the classic font of My Bloody Valentine, the game, on the bottom here. It's produced by Fright Rags and produced by Stop the Killer. It's officially licensed Stop the Killer. They're actually planning to do a Halloween 2 Michael Myers board game as well. And honestly, based on my experience so far with Silent Night, Deadly Night, and now my experience with My Bloody Valentine, I will probably still get it, but I'm going to get it knowing going into it, that it's going to be exactly probably the same board game. On the side, though, you see it's 1 to 4 players, ages 17 and up. And then on the back of the box, we got ourselves, again, some really nice looking artwork. I'm sure they have probably used this art for t-shirts and some of the other things you may find also over on Fright Rags' website, because they're all about merchandising t-shirts based on the original killers from these classic horror films. So there's the box. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get the box obviously opened up. I'm going to bring out all the contents. You guys can see all the contents, and I'll show you exactly how the My Bloody Valentine board game actually plays. With the box now opened and the contents fully revealed, I'll show you guys all the component pieces, and then I'll give you a rough idea of how the game actually does play. Now, there were tiers, of course, with any Kickstarter plan, and with the earlier looked at as well, Silent Night, Deadly Night. I only did, I think, the first tier. I didn't get well into the later tiers, the more expensive tiers, and I sort of reluctantly did the exact same thing with My Bloody Valentine. I did add the tier, for example, I'm just going to reach the side here. I got the tier for the expansion pack 2, which essentially did give me the 15-second sand timer and 30 sealed movie-based trivia cards, because you do have the option as well that you could pause the game and do trivia rounds. So I did get that one, which I've yet to still open up. And I did also as well get the tier option, where I did give myself as well the bloodied chocolate box that does say My Bloody Valentine all the way around it. It's cardboard, of course. And then opening it up inside, you do get also as well some additional playing cards. Now, the cards themselves are actually draw cards that will look more of a, you get a whole stack of these with the regular game, but then the tier option also gave me some extra cards as well. And some of the cards as well, it says like Harry kills again, loses a turn, stop giving Chief Newbie a hard time, everybody loses a weapon. Mayor Hangiger says the decorating committee has done a hell of a job, everybody earns a hearts, and so on and so forth. The real interest for me, at least, of getting the extra tier options was the fact that you get these extra playing cards. These player bits, or player spaces, actually do give you some extra characters that weren't from the original Kickstarter, which is kind of strange, because the characters that you actually do get playing tokens, I would describe it best as saying, they're all characters I would have wanted to get with the original game without adding the extra tiers onto it. I'm going to put these to the side because I didn't want to show you the ones that we actually do get. Now, you get Harry Warden. Harry Warden, like the case with Silent Night, Deadly Night, you would have actually had Billy Chapman moving around the board. In this case, you would have actually got the miner. And the miner is only printed on the one side. The back side is actually, obviously his back. I think there was also a tier option where you could actually have a lantern on top of his head that actually did illuminate. Why, oh why, I didn't actually get on board that level of tier still is strange to me. But you get a larger version of Harry Warden or the Miner. And then these smaller playing tokens, you get TJ, you get Mayor Hanniger, I always say that wrong. You get Mabel, runs the laundromat, and you also get, strangely, Sarah. No, I guess it's not strange, the fact that you would get Sarah and TJ. But then the characters that you get as part of the actual add-on tiers, you get Howard, you get Hollis. I'm so glad we actually get Hollis this time. You get Patty, Happy, Sylvia, and you get Axel. And again, looking at them, they're printed on both sides. Each one of these, by the way, the playing tokens do give yourself a little standee. All the standees for the regular players are in red. And then Harry Warden, the Miner, is in black. Other things as well, I think, well, in fact, let's grab the instruction booklet, because one thing I did also want to bring your attention to as well. Flipping through the back here, these were the additional tiers that you could go through. Now, I only opted for the expansion pack 1, which came with a package of the heart-shaped candy box, which had the replica of one of Box's Harry Warden menacingly leaves to one of his victims in the movie. The brand new game cards, which again were the additional game token cards, and then also there was the additional game playing cards down below here. Expansion pack 2. This is where you actually got the sealed movie-based trivia question. So I guess I must have got the expansion pack too. What I didn't get, though, was the light-up LED Miner game piece, and I didn't get also the little metal pins, which is something I kind of regret doing now. And then there was also the option for the beer bottle cozies to hold, of course, Moosehead inside. So again, I kind of really regret that I didn't get the chance to get those. It was probably just the time that when this was going around, I just didn't have the available funds. So I decided just to get Expansion Pack 1 and Expansion Pack 2. I will, though, draw your attention to the back here. These are all the 894 Kickstarter backers. And you may notice maybe about 6 down. Somebody's name is printed right in there. So the instruction booklet will, of course, break down everything that's required to actually playing the game. The game, I will tell you, is exactly the same as Silent Night, Deadly Night, which is a real bit of a bummer. I get the idea that the card, it worked the first time okay with Silent Night, Deadly Night, but to simply just rinse and repeat it in a laundromat to give us the exact same game again. Essentially what it is each person takes 3 dice. So I'm going to put this down here for a second. You get 3 dice. You get one that actually rolls Harry or the Miner. You get one that rolls you. And you get one that decides whether you actually draw a card or if it's a blank card or a blank space. If it's a blank space, when you land on, for example, the option to pick up the Chief Newbie badge, if you land on a blank space, then you have the option to pick this badge up. But though, again, all 3 of them, you're going to be throwing inside the My Bloody Valentine dice roller. I'm glad to see that they did actually include this, including some original vintage artwork from the poster itself. But you just roll out the dice, you dump them out. And then based on this, we'll decide how many spots Harry or the Miner will roll, 1 or 2, how many spaces you move, and then whether you get the chance to draw the card. If you do, of course, draw the card, then you know right away what deck you're then going to be going to. You're going to be pulling a card from this deck right here. The deck itself, as we certainly just flip through some of these, it's happening again. You lose a heart. Another lose a heart. Harry ripped another heart out. You lose a heart. You discovered another another dead body. Lose a heart. Happy warns, you might not live to see daylight. If you are in a kill zone, lose a heart and place a roadblock chip in your space. Your prank went too far. If you are in a kill zone, lose a heart and place a roadblock chip on your space. That's one other thing as well that's a carryover from the Silent Night, Deadly Night game is the fact that instead of snowballs, which would have been the one thing that came included with the Silent Night, Deadly Night game, you get instead, you get these hearts. The hearts, I will say, are a lot better than the really lousy, they were almost just like cotton balls that came included with the Silent Night, Deadly Night game. These at least are hard plastic hearts, and you get to carry around hearts. I think you actually get 3 of them, if memory serves me correctly. Just go to the front of this. What you'll do to start in preparation of this is that, again, everybody, each player gets 3 hearts. And then as well, you also get the chance later on to pick yourself up a weapon. The weapons that are included, at least, are die cast, which is nice to see. The actual weapons themselves are the nail gun. Takes out Hollis. You also get yourself the drill, which again is, hard metal. And of course, if it's going to be the Miner, you're going to get yourself the pickaxe as well. And then you have the option to pick up a weapon if you land on a weapon space. You also get inside the game as well a couple of roadblocks. I know it probably sounds like I'm overcomplicating the board game. The game itself does have a lot of preparation in order to start the game going. And you also get yourself the spinner. The spinner is when you actually land on a spot with Harry Warden. If both you and Harry Warden or the Miner land on a spot and shared together, then you spin this. If you land, for example, on still fighting, you get the chance to spin again. If you land on Harry kills you, you obviously will die. And if you land on you kill Harry, then you have to have a weapon in your possession. And of course, having those things in common, having those things all present, you can get the chance then to kill Harry. Let's pick up the board game. I want to show you guys what everything looks like here. The board game very much is small. The one thing I really had the problem with when it came to the original Silent Night, Deadly Night board game was the fact that the board game was very tiny. And it seems to again be the case here with the My Bloody Valentine release, is that the board game is very small. So, there is also the option as well to take drinks. So if you wanted to make this a little more of an adult game, you simply can then introduce the idea of taking drinks. It'd be good if you actually had yourself moose heads, but if you land on those, obviously you take yourself a drink. You start here, the players all start here, and then they move their way across the board. Harry, though, starts way up here, and then through the 2 dice that you're going to be obviously rolling, the miner's always going to be constantly moving. You're also going to be always moving as well. And the idea of the roadblocks is if you get the chance to put a roadblock on a space, Harry then, of course, can't cross the roadblock. What they also do as well, if that didn't make things even more confusing, is that they actually show you exactly the way that Harry moves. Harry doesn't move just across the board. Actually, Harry moves down. He takes what seems to be the longest route to get all the way down to the dance. So there is opportunity, of course, where you can avoid Harry as he's making his turns around the spiraling board here. But again, like as you're moving, you can freely move across the board yourself. On the back there, of course, you got My Bloody Valentine, the board game. My only real, again, criticism is the fact that this is literally just a carbon copy of the Silent Night, Deadly Night board game. If that does not bother you at all, it's an okay board for what it is. I think, again, it's way too small. It should have been a lot bigger than what it actually is. But it looks like they're just literally using the same format of board and box that they did with the earlier Silent Night, Deadly Night board game. As for the instructions themselves, the instructions are fairly simple to read through and know right away how you want to play. In order, again, to win, you have to have you and Harry standing on the same space on the board. This can be any space on the board. It doesn't have to be a kill zone. You must have a weapon in your hand, and when you flick the kill spinner, your pointer must land on the you kill Harry section. If that's the case, then you have the option to kill Harry, and you win the game. Losing, though, is Harry kills you. You must exit the game. If you run out of hearts, you must also exit the game, and if Harry reaches the Valentine Day dance space before a player has stopped him, then everybody loses the game, and the game ends. By the way, as well, advertised there on the other side was the already looked at here on this channel, the Silent Night, Deadly Night board game. But again, like for what it is, it's an okay game. I think it's more rooted in nostalgia. Just the idea of actually loving My Bloody Valentine was all the more reason why I wanted to pick up the game itself. I mean, again, I don't, sound like a broken record by saying this, but it literally just plays out, and it's designed exactly the same way. Instead of actually having snowballs, you have yourself plastic hearts. And instead of actually having yourself like Billy Chapman, you've got yourself, again, instead Harry Warden that's going to be moving across the board. But the game plays out exactly the same. Some would say that's a little bit disappointing, the fact that they literally just used the same format as the earlier game that we looked at and simply just changed out the character. And I would imagine it's probably going to be still the same case when we look at the Halloween 2 Michael Myers, because even though I know I'm going to say to myself, I don't need to get the board game, it's just going to play out the same as the other 2 that I already have in my collection, I know ultimately, I'm still going to jump on board that Kickstarter when it eventually does start. I think it's probably going to be the exact same case. You're probably going to have nurses. You're going to be like Laurie Strode. You're going to be moving across the flooring of the hospital. And of course, Michael Myers is going to be on the opposite side. You're going to have to meet. You're going to have a weapon. You're going to have to spin the dial and see whether you win or lose or get the chance to live again. My only thing, again, is when it comes to this game, it's just literally they just use the same format as the one before. Also, one thing also you get as well to carry all the things that you get in the game, like, for example, the hearts, the playing tokens, for example. Nice touch is that they actually do give you Madame Mabel's laundrette. That's a hard time saying that. But it actually does give you the little baggie so you can actually store all the stuff inside when you're ready to pack up the game. I have now played this game, I want to say like 5 times now. And again, while it is simply just a repeat of the one that we did before with Silent Night, Deadly Night, I will say one thing I do like about this one is just more nostalgic attachment to this particular movie over Silent Night, Deadly Night. While I did like the other one, I think because just the fact it just happens to be the miner, just happens to be Harry Warden, and it has sort of this, again, the same building blocks as the earlier game, but at least it's of a movie that I just love. I love My Bloody Valentine, so all the more reason why I did want to pick up this game for myself. Is it overly complicated? Yes. I still think that they didn't have to necessarily incorporate the idea of the hearts. This was one still thing I always mentioned when it came to My Bloody Valentine or the Silent Night, Deadly Night board game. Why did they have to include things that you had to carry around with him? I think picking up a weapon was more than enough. Laying down, for example, roadblocks was more than enough. And I even think it's to the extreme that you don't even necessarily need to get yourself the sheriff's badge either. I think if you would just had the chance to move across the board, and if you didn't, if you met up with the miner along the ways, if you then had the chance to spin the wheel, I think that was enough. It didn't need to complicate matters by incorporating as well hearts. What do you guys think, though, of the My Bloody Valentine board game? Bit overcomplicated, yes. It's just as complicated as the one that we looked at before. And I do think, again, like they need to scale these things a lot bigger than what they are. I mean, again, just to pick up the board here as well. The board is about the size of a small book. I mean, it's got a lot of cool artwork there. There's Hollis, for example, getting the nail gun to his face. And then again, there's Madam, was it Bernadette? What was her name? Bernadette, I think it was. No, Mabel. That's right, Mabel. But before she gets thrown into the washer. So it's got like a lot of good artwork to it, which I think is nice. But I think like the game itself just needs to be a lot bigger than what it actually is. Like this board is tiny. It doesn't make for a very long game, in fact. I mean, me sitting down with a couple of my friends playing this game probably lasted all of like 15, 20 minutes. It wasn't a very long game at all. It needed to have a lot more spaces. It needed to be a bigger board than what it is. And it literally needed to have better or different rules, different ways to play than what they had already done with Silent Night, Deadly Night. If they're going to do that already with the game they did before, I think everybody's going to get on board the idea of just, well, why am I going to back any new Kickstarter plan from this company if they're simply just going to take the same rules, take essentially still the same board game, and then just change out the characters for the new characters that happen to be in that movie? But what do you guys think of My Bloody Valentine, the board game? Have you had the chance? Were you part of the people that did back this Kickstarter? Let me know down below in the comment section. Or is this a game, just based on this review, something you guys would be interested to play for yourself? As always, guys, again, if you guys like this video, want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and on board to see more, then make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and that you're also turning on bell notification. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.